it is really lovely to be here, and I suppose it's all the more special because this is, for the meantime, the last of these events, and they've brought such a wonderful diversity of thought and thought-provoking elements to us. Just thinking on that news that has come through that, you know, the executive has collapsed, I think through our writing today we'll be trying to maybe give a spirit of some sort of hope and positivity, that what I believe myself, that while people believe in peace, I'm working for change from the grassroots up. We'll do it somehow, with or without political manoeuvring. Because I'm going to talk about a World War I shared history project I've been involved in called We Were Brothers. And just looking at the fly life today, coming over, it struck me, I didn't realise it was 2009 it started in. So that's 6 years on. It's been adopted by schools. It's still out touring the country. At the minute it's on in Cavan in a setting of a World War I museum, which is lovely, where they have actual rebuilt trenches and things like that. And originally it started as a play for a professional theatre company and had great success as that. But when we found so many schools and young people in the area were interested in tracing their own history of World War I and ancestors they'd known nothing about, we adapted a school's version. We adapted it to suit the music and the song and the things that the young people wanted to bring into it. And to me it was the youth version that captured something very, very special. So that's obviously 6 years ago. The first group of young people went out from different backgrounds across the city to explore their common history, supported by so many people, from the Playhouse, the International School for Peace Studies, to the Department of Foreign Affairs in Ireland. And to watch them go around different parts of Ireland and a variety of audiences performing their play, and then doing live questions and answers on the most controversial questions you can imagine. It gave me great hope that sometimes, perhaps in their innocence is maybe the wrong word, but in their youth, they will tackle things that the rest of us shy away from. So I'm going to read just a couple of short pieces. The first is really how the project came about. It was a brief I inherited to write a play that was based on the first time in World War I that nationalist and unionist soldiers from Ireland were allowed to fight side by side with the British Allied forces. Before, it was thought if you put them out together, they would use their guns to shoot each other rather than shoot the Germans. As it happened, it was at the Battle of Messines, and a great many of the young men who were out here, out at the war, were from the Northwest. And the City Council very kindly gave me access to their masses of archive material. And I think it's those letters home, those fragments of postcards, those diaries written afterwards that tell the real story of what it was like to be a young man out there. And I'm so glad to see Eamon here today, because I remember having a chat with Eamon when it was still in the early stages and talking about the uneasiness of if you write about World War I, and if you have a stage that has to be full of sandbags and smoke machines and things, you know, is there any danger that it can be misinterpreted as promoting conflict? And it was something I did think about. But I think, looking at what the young people have done with it, I can only see it now as a force for good. So here was the introduction to the whole thing. It's almost 100 years since the first among an estimated 4,000 young men from the northwest of Ireland made the decision to put on a British uniform and volunteer for service in World War I. The reasons for doing so were as many and disparate as their backgrounds. Many were only teenagers, although that word had yet to be invented. Most went to a country they had scarcely heard of, let alone visited. 35,000 Irish soldiers would never come home, and that's the most conservative estimate. Taking into account those who died as a result of what happened to them, some historians say a more realistic death toll is 50,000 or more. For those who did come home, who tried to return to a way of life that had been forever destroyed, life would be utterly changed. But for the best part of the intervening years, the life of many of these young men has at best been kept private and at worst suppressed or censored. It has not been easy for a nationalist ethos to coexist with the family legacy of British military service. There is also the difficulty of reconciling the need to record and value what is our shared family and community history with a determination to ensure the mindless slaughter of a generation is in no way justified or exonerated. All I could do as a writer was try to record them as individuals, as the young fathers, sons, and brothers they were when they walked out the door to go to their death in the battlefields of France or Belgium. There was nothing glorious in their sacrifice. By the time the enigmatic Major Willie Redmond had won the right for the Ulster and Irish divisions to fight together as a combined force, storm Messines Ridge and recapture the little Belgian town of Wichita in June 1917, the soldiers were battle-weary, disillusioned, politically duped, cynical, and yearning for a home and a future that they must have known instinctively would have no real place for them. They were right. The British government never did pass the Home Rule Bill. By the time the armistice in November 1918, the mood was turning away from constitutional nationalism, and Ireland would be plunged into a war of independence and a bloody civil war ending in partition. Sporadic violence in the north would erupt into more than 30 years of conflict. It seems that only now, as the first generation of the young people defined as the children of the peace emerge into adulthood, that the time may be right to remember openly and with respect. To me, Messines is important. It's a microcosm of all that's worth remembering and upholding about this lost generation, not as a triumphant strategic success, but as a remarkable endorsement and vindication of the strength and integrity, the humour and generosity of spirit of those thousands of ordinary men from ordinary homes, who, when faced with the unspeakable brutality and waste of life that is war, were somehow moved to put aside their differences in the cause of a common humanity. Somehow they found that, beyond political betrayal and manipulation, beyond ties of religion and tradition, culture and trade, it was enough at that time, in that uncharted no man's land, to be Irishmen and brothers. Now, I think every school we approached was very supportive of us, and I know I would like to make special mention to Oak Grove College, and part of the foreword was written by the Vice Principal, John Harkin, and why he felt it was important to our young people. So I'll just read a little bit from it. Education in its truest sense teaches young people to be confident in themselves, their own beliefs, and at ease with those whose beliefs are different. For the learning to last, there must be trust which allows for openness, so that there can be discussion and disagreement, but respect which transcends that. For many in the UK, remembering is natural. For some it is patriotic. For others it may seem jingoistic. But for most in Northern Ireland, remembering is either demonstrably done or entirely ignored. Remembering, like so much else, is not neutral in Northern Ireland. The We Were Brothers project should allow young people to explore their family history, to know their relatives, and not to be ashamed of them. I hope it will help to bring us to a day when we can all express our views on conflict past and present without contemporary political judgments being made, where people can feel free to remember, or not to, and to be respected. And I think 6 years on, it's lovely to know that work's still going on in the schools around the island of Ireland. Now, I wish I had the actor here who played the part, Chauncey Coyle, but just to finish with, I'll read a short piece from the character that he played, Private Robbie McLean, who had gone out really for a variety of reasons. He was in the Ulster Volunteers, but he thought it sounded like good money, bit of adventure, should it all be home for Christmas, didn't really think it through. And he was there on the first day of the Somme. He didn't actually exist. But the piece I have written from what he saw at the Somme is a composite from letters home and memoirs that were written by all the Robbie McLeans. It all went wrong. It all went so bloody wrong. This English general, this pompous jumped up bastard, he told us it was a perfect example of strategic planning down to the last detail. Him and his wee games of toy soldiers. When we got out there, we found out there was no strategy. None whatsoever. The 32nd went over first. They were cut down in front of us with machine gun fire. It took minutes. They were supposed to be our cover. So we had no cover. There was nothing else for it. I kept my head down and ploughed on. The machine guns were firing straight at us down from the Schwaben redoubt. They couldn't miss. Our officers fell. We were looking down and trying not to trip over the bodies. The men in front of us fell. We walked over them. We had to. I was slipping and sliding, trying not to go down. I remember saying to myself, just keep your head down, plough on through the mud. Then I tripped over a body and fell down on top of him. He was still warm. The blood was still seeping out of his wounds. I was clathered with it. I had to lean on his chest to prise myself up again. I came face to face with his big wide eyes staring up at death. Young lad he was. I was so cold, but the sweat was lashing off me, and the mud and the blood were caked under my fingernails, and still I went on, walking towards death. Then I saw the hill rising up ahead. There was a heap of bodies at the foot of it where they'd slid down the slope. The pain cut through my chest as soon as I started climbing. We were on all fours, there were no footholds, just heading blindly for the top. Then I was face to face with them, the Germans. I was right beside them, this close. I opened fire and I lashed out with my feet. I was just fighting for my own survival. Then it all went red and dizzy, and I was spinning down and down. Then it went dark. I just thought, this is it, I'm dying. I must have passed out. I remember looking up and the sky was this deep blue above me and the sun was shining. And for a moment I imagined I was back home, stretched out warm in my limbs on Craigan Hill, looking down in the city. I remember the silence. It was so still. And I knew it was all over. I got to my feet and I saw it was still up there in the Schwaben redoubt. But there were no Germans, just dead bodies scattered around us, ours and theirs, hundreds of them. The vast expanse of wasteland stretching out as far as I could see, strewn with hundreds upon hundreds of bundles of blood-drenched carcass. We had reached the strongest part of the enemy line. We had done our duty, like that effing British soldier told us to. But nothing happened. Nothing. There was maybe a dozen or two of us left, and all we could do was go back down into the trenches and wait for the German counterattack. We knew it was coming. They took the roll call at dusk. The first day of the Battle of the Somme, 20,000 dead, twice that number wounded or missing. And one day, for 600 yards of no man's land. And nobody cared. They betrayed us. We were very fortunate to win the National Lottery Heritage Award for the whole of the UK with this particular project, and when I sort of somewhat nervously went onto the stage to receive it, because we didn't know until the last minute that we'd won it, I had a one-line acceptance speech, which was probably good because I tend to put her on, and I meant every word of that one line, and I still do. This project carries on in the spirit of the thousands of people from all traditions or none across everywhere in the island of Ireland who have spent their lives working tirelessly for peace. And peace, of course, comes in many forms. that was directly relating to military and social conflict. And our next reader, Bernie Kerr, has given me the privilege of reading some poems for her, because Bernie has to take medication, which means that her voice doesn't always come across too clearly, and she feels embarrassed, and we as fellow poets feel that it doesn't do justice to the beautiful words she writes, because it can be lost so easily. These are a short series of poems about a huge transition in her daughter's life. So I'm going to invite Bernie to come up and join me and to say a few words about them.
Yes, these poems were written very much with my daughter in mind. Some are recent, and I mean the first one here goes back until she was 2, and she's almost 26. Unfortunately, as Felicity says, I just can't read them out myself. You wouldn't understand what I was saying. So I'll just leave it to Felicity to. Hopefully you'll see what it's meant by the time the last poem is read.
Right.
Thank you.
I think they also show the great courage of the journey that any mother goes along with her child. This is the first one for Roisin, aged 2. Can I get in your bed, Mammy? Can I get in your bed? I'm feeling sick, my tummy's sore, I've got an aching head. Can I get in your bed, Mammy? Can I have a cuddle too? I promise I'll go straight to sleep, 'cause Mommy, I love you. Yes, you can get in my bed, baby. You'll help to fill the space your father left when he walked away, leaving a pillow in his place. Yes, you can get into my bed, baby, and when you're sleeping tight, I'll hold your hand, pretend it's his, and love you both tonight. This is Fashion Statement for Roisin, aged 14, and I would have known Roisin at 14, and I suppose the cliche would have been archetypal tomboy. The legs of your jeans are so wide that they could easily contain 2 entire small countries at war, with the border at the crotch. Your t-shirt and your hoodie could disguise a supermodel or a hippopotamus. You won't even wear a coat because it's not cool, even though the weather forecast is for snow and hypothermia has been known to kill. You refuse to put on makeup or a dress. You won't stagger around the town in high-heeled shoes. Your trainers are your mark. They state your case as much as a forbidden tattoo would. You are yourself. There's no one else like you, at least no one that I have seen. Your eyes, so blue, challenge the world to make you someone else. The world will feel. You'll always be a you. And in Sonnet for my daughter, Roisin's 21. 25? I mustn't start keeping right. She reminds me of Joan of Arc, though maybe not leading an army to help that would be a king. No, like Joan of Arc, she refuses to wear dresses, no flowing robes for her, no trailing hems, but jeans, t-shirts, hoodies and trainers, or for posh occasions, flat shoes. Luckily times have changed and she doesn't have to burn at the stake. So when people say, she's not a girly girl, I say, no, she's not a girly girl. She's a beautiful young woman to me. And then as Roisin made the decision she was born to make, which was the biggest decision of her life and probably one of the biggest decisions of her mum's lives, the last 2 take on maybe a more serious tone. The change. I gather now that you have reconciled within yourself the greatest change that you will ever make. For you will bring to birth the boy who for so many years has struggled to be seen under multi-layers of girl. He'll bring a longed-for peace, a coming home at last, and so begin to heal the wounds left by nature's great mistake, this great hormonal rush on the female embryo that in your case went wrong. But don't expect my joy, for you are casting off what I have cherished for so many years. I cannot see her go without a tear. I cannot be that woman who never held a daughter to her breast. I cannot say goodbye just yet. But perhaps, as years go by, I'll be able to ask for Nate, and not as now pick up the phone and say, hello, to Mummy's honey pie. And the last one, which really concludes this series, where are you going? Where are you going, sweet daughter, sweet daughter? Where are you going, sweet daughter of mine? Down a road I can't follow to places unknown to me. Where are you going, sweet daughter of mine? You were so pink and perfect I named you a little rose. Though I couldn't hold you, such storms tossed my mind. Yet now you have grown, I must call down the wind to you. Be all that you've always been, gentle and kind. What have I gained in the loss of my daughter? What have I gained when the process is done? But a loss that is gain, and a smile that is laughter, and a whole world of joyfulness in my second son.
Hello everyone. It's been a privilege to be asked to come here and read some of my poems today with the rest of the girls. It's kind of a first outing for us as an official group, really, and it just kind of happened. We never set out to do this. We've read together at many other occasions, but not as a group. You'll already be aware of the focus of the readings growing up in the north and maintaining a sense of peace in the busyness of the 21st century. And I like that theme because I think as women we don't often get the chance to express how it was for us, or tell the way it is. So I think it's really good, and I particularly like the brief about maintaining a sense of peace in the 21st century. I think maybe we can have a bit of fun with that. Anyway, I want to begin my readings with saluting the strong, courageous women of our city, particularly those who reared children in the flashpoint areas up around here where I was born, in the Fountain and the Bog Side, and those from all the other troubled areas of the city. These women, they grew up in quiet, undisturbed times, and it's hard to imagine the horror of having the normality and the stability of the peaceful lives that they grew up in turned on its head. And that's traumatic enough, but I think it would be even more traumatic for those that were bringing up small children in them days. The anxieties that they must have endured at times would have been unbearable, but still they soldiered on because they had to, for their children. So the first poem I'm going to read was inspired by those days, and it reflects on the cycle of life, and it takes us from a mother's youth. Actually, it takes us from when I grew up in the 60s, in the early 70s, in the Fountain, on to the days where my children grew up, and then, there's a new grandchild on the way. So at that stage that it was written, there was a new grandchild. There's 6 now, and this is a relatively new poem. So anyway, it's called The Cycle. I was searched in sandbag sangers at the foot of our street, our town centre. Often I'd queue for the pleasure, eagerly anticipating what lay behind, like at the entrance to a theme park. Heavy machine guns casually slung over camouflage shoulders as commonplace as handbags to a 10-year-old dawdling down to Woolworths, clutching her 2-shilling pocket money. One day I spied Maeve up ahead with her dad. She smiled and waved. He tugged her away. Maeve was my best friend in different days. My daughter didn't mourn the military migration. Thousands of young potential husbands, exotic to some. She ventured from the place of her mother's exile on the orange side of the river to the likes of the Strand Road Odeon, where only idiots stared in our day. She did sleighing with her Catholic friends, cancelling how it was. My newborn grandson, in a pub somewhere, a man spits at the TV, 50 inches of plasma Stormont, and says, "The pay is mightier than the sword. Whores, those who nonsense conscience to put their mouth where the money is." What I love about poetry is that you can make anything happen, and I mean anything goes. You can even make up words. I love that bit, which is great. I mean, if you're a bad speller like me, you can just get away with anything. You just say, well, that was just a word I made up. It wasn't meant to be that word, it's this word. But anyway, in this next poem I've used proper words, I think. But I've waved a magic wand to give Derry a voice of its own. And here's what I think Derry would say if it could speak. It's called Derry Airing. Just call me John Doe, for who knows what I'm called anymore. I've got two names, you see, and a split personality, or so they say. Yet, though my ancient walls weep and wail, I'm neither mad nor bad. I'm just sad. You see, are you orange or green, lad? Which flag do you wave? Will the doctrines of bigotry mean a thing when you lie deep in indifferent clay? In this third poem, we meet Grace, a pensioner in one of Derry's charity shops. And like the first poem, it travels through time, taking us from the present day back to the First World War. There are a number of issues that kind of arise in this poem, but when I was writing it, I was thinking about sacrificing that great, imponderable question. What does war really achieve? And it's called Those Boots. And the tag fell off it, so you have to bear with me to find it. Thank you. Thank you. Those boots. Those boots had wintered with Grace for 8 years. Sturdy when she bought them, only lightly worn and slightly tight around the toes. Her heart stuttered when she stumbled on them, stood on a rack at the back end of Oxfam. She thought of her father's large, scarred hands tacking leather exactly like that, offcuts of some big knob's boots, a trim fit for his daughter. He'd sit last between knees, scarlet wrists pulling twisted pincers, securing soles with heavy-duty support, edging uppers and tight, tiny stitching, fixing buckles salvaged from God knows where, her father's prayer for warmth in bitter Sundays. He always powered his prayer with practical action, an impatient saint paving the way for God. At Passchendaele, intent on mass redemption, he led stretcher bearers burdened with the dead weight of spattered casualty through mud and floating mats of mustard gas. He never said, she never asked the ghastly facts of that so deeply scratched into his eyes and heavy on his gait, the self-reproaching stoop of the reprieve who half believed and half conceded. Now, stripped of all she earned to pay her care, his daughter battles geriatric apathy, and still she's only cast-off boots to wear. I'm sure many of you will agree with me that the Peace Bridge is probably one of the city's biggest assets in recent years. I mean, busloads of tourists cross it daily, and locals, many of whom, including myself, questioned the worth of it when they were building it, can't get enough of it. I cross it most days, maybe a couple of times every day, and I just find that people tend to smile at each other on it, strangers. It's just something about it that kind of lifts your spirits. So this is my poem. It's probably much written about now, but I have a wee poem myself about it. And I think it's a bit dated, and I was just looking at it last night, and I think it's a bit dated because it was written when the bridge opened. And if you remember, the Guildhall was all scaffolded and the safety net was round it, so there's kind of referenced it, but I'm sure you'll bear with me on that one. This is called Peace Bridge, funnily enough. We are the lawyery-like figures on the early proposals. As on the blueprint, the sun even shines. This path is a happy place. Faces are illuminated. A busker plays. A cyclist sways past a peddler selling ice cream. A couple with a pouched baby limboed, they choose a shrouded Guildhall backdrop for a telling family shot. By the seats facing the marina, a huggling of extreme fringed teenagers. Looking back at Craigavon Bridge, two elderly men reminisce. In the distance, a runner sprints on deck, and the artist beside me winks. We are the living, breathing dream, the steel, the suspension, the hope. And I think these last two, I'm just going to go a bit wild off the mark on it, and I think really they fit in with the part in the brief about maintaining a sense of peace in the busyness of the 21st century. And there's only one way to do that as far as I'm concerned. You know, we all have our own coping mechanisms when things get a bit hectic and mad. But here's where I go when I want to get away from it all, and it's called The Place. The place of steam and warmth and wooden walls of duck egg green bordered with picture rail. The place that I have claimed and pour my gall on all who dare enter when I avail of all the luxury it has on tap, the lavender, the froth of cloudy suds, the flickering tea lights marking where it's at, the next best thing to sex, deep hot tub love. There, music takes me to the places where the stuff of dreams waft through the haze of steam, evaporating in the hothouse air, sweet secrets, echoes of what's never been. My sanctuary from the madding race, my sacred realm, my bath, this is the place. And if 2 hours in a bath fails to de-stress you, can I suggest something along this line? And this is the last poem. Totally nothing to do with peace, but I just want to finish. Kennigo Bay. You said, let's nip down to Kennigo Bay. I grinned at your nip. It wasn't exactly on our way home. It wasn't exactly on the way to anywhere. I glanced up at the moon in full wax, and I swear it winked back at me, beaming down its most luminous smile. Turning to you, I could read, even in profile, even with my eyes closed, your lecherous intentions. Being a sucker for inspired thought without further hesitation, I replied, bring it on. And you, John, took Car Roundabout on 2 wheels. I squealed and you laughed at my shouts. We were 18 again on that endlessly long, bending road. No stopping us, bar fleetingly when sensory overload struck awe as we saw the bay floodlit in moon, and all around the sky swathed in stars. Majestic night, and all was ours. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Julieann. thank you to Susan for having us today, and thanks to the Hollywell and all you for coming, and thanks to Felicity and Bernie and Lynne for their lovely readings, and we're absolutely delighted to be here today. Again, some of them are tenuous links to peace, but some of them are, I find, kind of peaceful. So these are from my book that came out a couple of months ago, Milk Teeth. Stop laughing, I mean, everyone can hear you over everybody else. Right. So I'll start with one about being a mum. And it's the day we brought her home. And naturally, we were desperate for a bit of peace. The day we brought her home, she slept, and we, though sleep deprived, blinkered by our unreal domain, sat squat on the end of the bed. Knees folded in, cocooned into balls, we sat soundlessly, watching, on high alert, afraid to move lest this tiny thing stirred, and we had to start all over again. The soothe, the sway, lullabies with no words, just the distant comforting hum, felt in tired brains, remote yet reverberating like a heartbeat in a headstand. She slept, and we, still too fearful to give in, sat wired, watching her chest softly rise, softly fall, keeping count of each fledgling breath. Doll in a Moses basket, we dared not look away. We sat there for hours, hypnotized by her every sound, every shift. We sat weak and scared for tomorrow, seeing in the glow of morning. You'll have to bear with me too, and I'm trying to find things. So this one's about why I love dairy. One of the many reasons why I love dairy. It's called chime. Chime, such a pretty word. It falls from my tongue in musical notes and hangs pregnant in mid-air, packed with promises. From the back door I often still to listen, as the bells of St. Eugene's sing to me. Each chime a cathedral's choir, sent to soothe its citizens, diffusing through the air. Rolling unwanted cigarettes just to savour the moment, a reason to linger, intent on hearing every peal, every glorious love-spun wedding. At year's end, I stood there again. An arctic chill whistled around my legs and escaped through to the hearth. Come 20:13 p.m., every bell in the city resounded at once. A cacophony of churches, cathedrals, town halls, rang as one, heralding a city of culture. Grand pyrotechnics fell in behind, a sky full of fireworks and ambition, ringing with wonder so many cultures, a city's awakening. Last night, the breeze sang again. The Angelus had passed, so what was the occasion? Then all was clear. White smoke had appeared, serenading us of a new pope, the Vatican's birth of a new hope, carried to us in isobars. I wonder how I could possibly live elsewhere when here the night air sings to me. And this is a title poem from the book Milk Teeth. And it's just about trying to find your way as a mother, which I'm sure a load of you know how it is. Milk teeth. In finding myself, I first had to find you, and thrust into this pearly clinical world it began. Placed on my chest, you murmured, while we cried through words of welcome. You, the delicate expression of our infatuation, eyes white as saucers and questioning all. You, the fusion who brings music to these walls and melodious infant babble. I shall show you the world and how it works to make your passage easier. As a listening ear, I will hear when you call and comfort in hushed measured tone. I will heal with myriad kisses and instruct you in the ways of others less loving. Tiny flower, you bloom and hold the best of us in perfect synthesis. Run away a year. You no longer cling to me, and as the swell subsides, so does the worry. My body relents, no longer lactating at the mere thought of lips curled to meet me. Instead, I fear the nip of milk teeth, still tiny bumps but budding with potential. Instead, I wean and indulge in that indistinct scent that lingers long after you do. I cut my teeth with your arrival. Now embedded, you thrive, and we catch you. Thank you. Bear with me. I thought I had it all organised. The next one I'm going to read is one of the, in my work with the Bloody Sunday Trust. Before I was the chair of the trust, I was actually the press officer for the Bloody Sunday families in the run-up to the Savile report. And it was the craziest day ever. It was amazing, but it was scary, and I was kind of in charge of sorting out the whole world's press, which was a wee bit nerve-wracking. So that night I tried to write a poem about it, and this was the result. Page 47, I finally found it. Oh yes. The relief of Derry. Do you like it? We were there for the disgrace, for the great lie exposed. So many rusty bloodstains, tarnished names, now exalted. Thousands stood in solidarity, squinting in the rare, most welcome sun of Guildhall Square, rays glittering like hopes off its newly laid granite. We needed to be there. Among friends, they said through loudspeakers. The city's breath hung heavy, a palpable fear, full of nervousness, full of guilty excitement. We watched the hands of the city clock play chase, count down to truth, to Cameron's belated bleat, waiting patiently for any signs of life through stained glass windows. We were there, for truth revealed in gestures, cheered by all below. Thumbs up of a good report beamed around the world with a city's vindication. Not just any names, our people. Rapturous crowds saw Widgery torn apart, tossed aside, consigned to history's dustbin, its insult now fluttering in the wind. We were there for grave admissions. Unjustified and unjustifiable, he said. Wrong, he said. We all became lighter as decades of weight fell away and fact replaced fiction. Lord Savile saw the relief of Derry, and though flawed, he did try, and we breathe easier. And I suppose this one is trying to make peace with an old friend. And I had never gone to see him before, an old university friend, and I left it too late. Aberystwyth. I had arrived at its grand Victorian station and, stepping outside, burst into tears at the sight of his hometown. Too silent a taxi drive through inky winding streets left me here a stranger. A crash of deafening waves took me by surprise, as did its pastel pretty terraced seafront curving around Cardigan Bay. The hotel room was too small, too white, so I walked the promenade, past rainbow terraces, arcades, hotels, following the coast as far as I could. I found a castle and cursed my negligence at not telling him I loved him still. Effort discarded, old friend, letters lost to routine. Real life intervened and we left it too late. I sat on a beach pavilion and cried for the years it ran away with us, knowing I should have done more, written more, loved more. Imagining he once sat there too, I hear his voice, sweetness, cherub, never by name, but soaked with affection. Giving into sleep, I dreaded the slow walk to the morning's crematorium and thanked all that brought him to me. How would time, we aren't. This one is about the day that I realised that my wee baby is not a wee baby anymore. And that's going to be a whole nightmare. It's called Wait a While Longer. Ears pricked for the slightest murmur, fine-tuned to danger, an alertness coyote quick, just in case. She's right, again, outgrown all our precautions, and though I protest, she now talks louder. Out go fluffy blankets, bibs, first toys. Tonight, down comes the safety gate, dismantled, and thus ends her infancy. Indignant at remnant of baby things, she rebels. Everything goes and demands, except for pink, everything pink. Sleep eludes me. Motherhood too, or at least the first tentative steps that brought us here and changed everything. Ears pricked to her every breath. I'll wait a while longer. This next one's about some oral history work that I do locally with women that have been affected by the Troubles, and it's one of the best jobs I've ever had because I love listening to people's stories and I love trying to just do them justice on paper. It's where my skill lies. So this is about the unheard voices. We work with the warmth of Ireland, and on occasion are invited to share in the hearths and hearts of its people. We are strangers, yet they radiate sincerity. They invite us in and warm us with tea, sometimes offer a biscuit or two. I never do, too polite to make crumbs in conversation. We invite words to flow, thoughts and memories, and if they talk of their lives, of family, of loss, of the appalling things they saw when this country was at war. Sometimes they share secrets, in the hope we might make sense of them when they cannot. We just listen. Caught up, we rise and fall in the breath of others, with the gentle, the honest, the burdened few who dare to speak aloud. For days and weeks we carry their words inside. Weighed down by empathy, we learn from them, allowing their imprint upon us. Entrusted with the beautiful lives of others and made a storyteller, I am privileged. For when we are gone, our stories live on, taking flight. And I've got a request from my cousin down there. So this is just one that seems to go down very well with people. I don't know, it seems to resonate with people. And it's such a simple poem. See what you think about it. The comb. It was only a comb, narrow and brown, 2 for £1, but so sacred to me. He used to keep it in his back pocket, tidy up the parting of his hair should it go astray. He used to stand there in front of the mirror, dedicated, perfecting the look. And if he ever bent to lift things, the tip of the shiny plastic would show, sometimes fall to the floor. Sometimes I worried he would lose it. He never did though, reclaiming it like a gold coin he'd just dropped. It was just a comb, taking on a whole new meaning now he is gone, significant in its lasting insignificance, still here with no use. Abandoned, absent-mindedly, on a dashboard, in a hire car, 1,000,000 miles away, I lost my daddy's comb that day. How are we doing? One more? Right. Well, I'll read this one then. This is about a campaign that we helped organise last year along with the Pat Finucane Centre, and it's an Ireland-wide campaign for anyone that suffered loss during the Troubles. And it was in their footsteps campaign where the people could bring a pair of shoes representing their loved one and a note attached saying what happened to them. And we took it to London and Belfast and Dublin, and it's really visually powerful when you see all these shoes sitting around. So this will be my last poem today. A sea of shoes, the In Their Footsteps campaign. Tiny pink shoes, they speak volumes. Empty of feet, they flutter down 10 Downing Street's pavement, as though they are dancing. A handwritten note dances alongside. I was 5 months old when we were blown up in the 1974 Dublin bombings. We never stood a chance. Men's size 10 brogues, they speak volumes. Lining the street outside the Ministry of Defence, the stark unpolished shoes of every man, their once proud owners slain in a war not of their making. Murdered by British soldiers, he was a much-loved son and brother, loved today more than yesterday, but never as much as tomorrow. Elsewhere, decadent cowboy boots catch the eyes of Belfast passerbys. Worn that night, they scream for justice. I am a Miami showband massacre survivor. My 3 Miami brothers were murdered at Banbridge, July 1975. Truth is the first casualty of war and the last prisoner to be released.
Lovely. I think it was so appropriate today to end the way we did. And I know, they keep hearing about like tenuous lengths of peace, but it's all about life. It's all about how we cope and moving on. And they were all just wonderful in their own way. Those poems. And thank you so much, ladies. Bernie, your poems are wonderful. Felicity gave them a fantastic voice.
Our debut collection will be out soon.
Well, very, good luck with that. It sounds like it need to be shared with everyone. And Lynne, thank you so much. Julieann, of course. And hopefully the girls are going to be out and about, and this is just the first little platform. And I'm sure they'll be back here again. So listen, thank you so much. I'm not going to stand here and thank all these people because Amy Baker is getting up tonight, so now I'm very concerned.
Round of applause again.
Say a special thanks to Mac AV, who've been here every week for the last year, and they've been fantastic, and they've done a great job with all our lunchtime events and all our big events as well. Please go on to the YouTube channel, City Centre Garden Reflection, and you can see all of the different wide variety of events and talks that we've had, and it's really worth just dipping in and out of them every now and again and reminding yourselves why this project came about in the first place and what the whole purpose and point is, and can we give the boys a really big round of applause? Post lots of Raymond's photographs over the last year. He's a very talented photographer and he's done a great job and a great work with it. Just given our project such beautiful images that we have for a very long time, so thank you. There's familiar faces, new faces, you're probably wondering what's going on, and Amy who's still standing beside me.
I'm standing here because we thought, Hollywell Diversity Community Partnership thought, we can't let this occasion go without honouring Susan Glass and Marjorie Baker. It's been our privilege.
Marjorie, get up. I can't stand here on my own.
Marjorie, come on up, please.
And the boys will be editing this bit out. Oh my goodness.
I can't get a word in here. Marie, Marie Coyle, can you come up just for a second as well, please?
You're not going to kill him, that's all over.
So, we want to say on your behalf how grateful we are for the work that Susan has been doing, that Marjorie has been doing, for the last, in your case, Marjorie, how long?
Oh, 29 months.
29 months. And Susan's been with us for the last 13 months? 14 months. Yeah. So, and have worked so hard, so beautifully, so sensitively, so imaginatively, to have session after session after session, including the conference, the Hope Beyond Hurt conference, and all sorts of events that have thrilled you, that have invited you to question yourself, question your behaviour, question your attitudes, and So we're very, very grateful, and sadly, you might even say tragically, this project, the Garden of Reflection, is going to end at the end of this month. So Susan finishes today, Marjorie finishes on Friday, and we are deeply grateful, truthfully, deeply grateful for all the work you've done. And Marie wanted to say a few words on behalf of all the people who have been in the audience for so many of these sessions. So Marie Coyle.
For myself, these events were inspiring, fun, and very, very emotional. The hurt and healing was always evident and felt by many. It was a unique opportunity for all people to share, listen, learn, understand, and realise there still is hope. A big thank you to all and all.
This project, it's not finished, it's not over, it's not done. I have great hope. I mean, I will always be connected, and I will always be back and here. And I've made so many good friends and so many great connections, and met so many amazingly wonderful, inspirational people. You know, and not least the ladies today. You know, I mean, that's this, you know, the standard and the quality of what we've had. And you know, that's not something that myself and Marjorie stuck in isolation. It's a huge. We're blessed within this facility to have a wonderful team of people and staff. Everyone, all the partners in Hollywood Diversity, in every single floor, you know, have fed into this process in one shape or form, and have helped make it what it has been for the last 2 years. Now, you don't forget about Geraldine, who managed the programming up until I came along last year. He did a wonderful job as well. And he was on his holidays, bless him. But you know, it doesn't happen just because of us. It happens because people want it to happen, and people feed into the process, and we're just so pleased that we're able to facilitate that. And I'm just a facilitator. I've just helped move it along, and I have great hope in the future. That, you know, the garden outside is a beautiful space. It's wonderful. You know, people should spend time in it, and I know that as time goes on and things, you know, start to settle down. I mean, money's always an issue in terms of programming. We've been so blessed with our funders, SEPV, because they've enabled us to get such a high quality and bring so many international people. Never mind the lovely lunches we've been eating, you know, and I know people will miss that, but that's okay, you know, that'll all come again. But please keep your eye open. We'll try and sort of post stuff on Facebook. We'll share the films and the photographs. And I know that Hollywood Diversity do have plans to do some lunchtime events in the future. So, you know, just because, you know, it's not myself or Marjorie you're getting the email from, you know, please keep coming along, and it'll be in a slightly different shape or form, but the work here is not done, and the garden is there forever. So, you know, thank you so much everybody for coming, and it's only all a while.
No, I didn't get one of the three. I'll do it after.